To start things off, please note that we will be talking to some forward-looking information and forward-looking statements during this presentation. I urge you to go to our website at www.q2metals.com and read the forward-looking statement disclosure in its entirety. Neil McCallum, our VP of Exploration, is also our qualified person. Neil's reviewed and approved the technical information in this presentation. And with that, let's get going. Q2 Metals is a mineral exploration company that's listed on the TSX Venture Exchange under the stock symbol QTWO and on the OTCQB under the stock symbol QUEXF. We are focused on the Cisco Lithium Project, which is located in the Nemaska Cree territory of the EU Itchy James Bay region of Quebec, Canada. Why Q2 Metals? This is a question that's been asked of us on many occasions during this past year. To say that it was a tough sell for people a year ago today was a bit of an understatement, and thankfully that tide seems to be turning. Neil and Simon will walk through a few highlights, but for my part, to start things off, scale and grade. The exploration target that we issued in July 2025, which provided a conceptual estimate of what Cisco looked like at that time. That was based on 40 holes, 16,000 meters, and it conceptually provided an estimate of 215 million tons at minimum of 1% lithium oxide. So globally speaking, based on that conceptual estimate, that would place Cisco in the top 10 of hard rock lithium projects. In preparing for today, I did look back at all of our news releases in the last 12 months, and we've said on a few occasions that we're going to continue to build shareholder value through the drill bit, and I think during 2025 we definitely did that. Metallurgy work, Neil touched upon that, but initial test work, the first pass of network that we did do, confirmed that we had strong recoveries through DMS. Infrastructure, we do have an advantage there, as Cisco is just 150 kilometers north of the town of Matagami. Jurisdiction, Quebec is a great jurisdiction to work in. It's a great province, and it's a safe province. It's a safe jurisdiction, with Canada also being at the forefront of critical minerals. We're poised for growth. Q2 is pre-resource, but we do have a strong balance sheet and have near-term catalysts that are upcoming, and hopefully a strengthening lithium market. This is a share price chart that we like to refer people to. It goes from February 2024, when we first acquired Cisco, all the way through until, I believe it's yesterday. You can see when we acquired Cisco in February 2024, our share price was roughly about 25 cents. We had an initial spike, and then we did do a financing in June and July of 2024. And then we started issuing assay results. So hole 10 came in hot and heavy there with 120 meters that assayed at 1.72% lithium oxide. Hole 18, 215 meters at 1.69. And then hole 21 at 347 meters at 1.35% lithium oxide. We're sort of range bound there between 80 cents to $1. And then we started up our winter program in 2025. So hole 27 was another phenomenal hole at 179 meters. There was a bit of a sell-off. Trump had his Liberation Day in March there, as we all know. And then we've managed to gradually climb our way back up. So we issued our exploration target in July 2025. We were able to complete a $26 million charity flow-through financing in August of 2026. And then October through to now, we've had a couple other good news releases with hole 36, 272 meters at assayed at 1.61, and most recently hole 47. August 2024, $6.8 million of a financing that we did. $4 million of that was charity flow through. In August of 2025, as I just mentioned, we did do that $26 million life financing, which was all charity flow through, standard shares. That really allowed us to accelerate the work program that we have on Cisco, pushing towards a maiden mineral resource estimate on the mineralized zone in early 2026. Also to note, we did have some warrants that were exercised. So back in December 2022, we did do a financing when we first acquired our MIA project, which is also based in the James Bay region. From that financing, we were able to raise an additional $1.9 million on the exercise of those warrants. And then in March of 2025, we raised an additional $7.6 million of warrants that were exercised from, again, another financing that we did when we first acquired the MIA project. We do have analyst coverage. Canaccord Genuity, Tim Hoff and Katie LaChapelle have provided analyst coverage on us, as well as Argonaut, based out of Australia, and George Ross is the person that did that one. A current share structure for us. So we currently have 195 million shares issued and outstanding. Share price as of, that's not as of yesterday, slightly higher than that, but our market cap is roughly around $310 million. Cash on hand to date, we have just over $20 million. We do have warrants that are in the money, and they are expiring in July and August of this 2026 coming up. So they have been trickling in quite slowly, but hopefully they'll start to ramp up a bit. On the corporate side of things, we've been busy. To say this past year has been busy out on the road has been, again, an understatement. We were here at Roundup in Vancouver. We were in the core shack there. PDAC, we were also in the core shack there. Simon and Jason were at IMARC in Australia. Chris, Simon, and I have been traveling throughout the world presenting Q2 and Cisco to everybody. So, just there's a brief mention there of all the places that we've been this year. It's getting more and more popular when we go away, and people actually want to know more about Cisco and more about Q2. So that's been a nice change. And management-wise, so there's myself, President CEO, Jody Belfleur, she's our CFO, Neil McCallum, Vice President Exploration, Simone Gaivin, Vice President ESG. Chris is on this call here. He's our IR manager, and Jason McBride's our IR manager, and Chris Ackerman is our corporate development. Recently, we did add Keith Phillips to our board. So Keith is the former CEO of Piedmont Lithium from its inception to its recent merger with Sayona Mining in 2025. So under his leadership, Piedmont achieved a peak market cap of just over $1 billion. And the successor company, Elevra, is North America's leading hard rock lithium producer. And with that, Neil, I think I'm going to turn it over to you.
We'll get into a little more of the geology and setting of the project as well. So we can get on to that next slide, which highlights one of the best parts of the project, which is its location, which dictates the access to infrastructure. So we are within the traditional territory of the Namaska Cree Nation, which is within the Iwishi traditional territory. And our mineralized zone is only 6.5 kilometers away from the Billy Diamond Highway. So it's kind of in that nice sweet spot of being a little bit out of the way, but not too far. Matagami being the closest fairly major center, only about 150 kilometers to the south of our project, which will then have access to the rail line, which could take a concentrate all the way down to Bécancour, which has sort of been developing as the hub of battery production and processing on the downstream side of things, which has received a lot of support from the Quebec government. We can get on to the next slide, which really dives into the project. It's a fairly large project still, and even though we are full stream ahead on the Cisco mineralized zone highlighted in red there on the map, there's still a lot of greenstone belt that we just haven't yet had the time to fully understand. Maybe there's additional zones along trend east-west, but that's something that we're going to be exploring as we continue to develop the project. So a little bit of history. Some of you know it already, but just in case we haven't, the original discovery is very recent. Only 2022 was the original discovery of the main CO1 mineralized zone at the north end of the project, or the mineralized zone. It was drilled by the property vendors in 2023 with 6 holes, and they got a pretty good snapshot of what to expect, but I think at the time they didn't quite realize yet just how good the project was. We acquired it in February 2024, and then I won't list off all the details, but since then, every drill campaign has been just a progression toward the south. And now we're, as of December 17, 33,275 meters across 78 holes. And that is roughly across a 1.5 by 800-meter wide zone. So what we're doing is more infill drilling, but there's still a lot of expansion to go. So we'll get into those details. I like to do these statistics on how we're doing on the drilling. The gray bars are the hole depths. On the left-hand side is where we started out. Fairly shallow drilling and decent pegmatite intervals. And as we head to the right on that image there, it kind of outlines that we're on average about 600 to 700 meters now per drill hole. And a lot of those cumulative pegmatite intervals are around, up to 400, 300 meters per hole. That's compiling every single meter of pegmatite within each hole. So on average, though, for the project, we're at about 464 meters for hole depth. And then within each hole, on average, about 160 meters of pegmatite. So that's about 33% of each hole on average is mineralized, which will be good for the project going forward as we do a lot of infill. It's not going to take quite as much drilling, where if we had only, 10% of each drill hole mineralized, that's just going to make development on the infill drilling just that much more efficient. So these are the highlights that we could talk about, which are, I think, tell the story themselves on the intervals. Starting from the north, we have roughly 120 meters, 1.72% lithium oxide. Hole 21 in the center with 347 meters at 1.35% lithium oxide. And I'll jump all the way to near the south end with hole 44 is definitely breaking the record for us and perhaps globally at 457 meters at 1.65% lithium oxide. So, with those intervals, it highlights that the main zone is definitely where we are seeing the most success, but there's still a lot of room within the project to truly understand what it looks like, because there's some of those outcrops that really haven't seen enough drilling. So we'll head on to what we see in the exploration target. As Alicia mentioned, that is the bracket that we can use to know what to expect for the eventual resource estimate. So the minimum tonnage is 215 million tons, and the maximum that they estimated was 329 million tons at a grade range of between 1 and 1.38% lithium oxide. And the way that this was done is with only 40 drill holes at the time. Keep in mind we're up to 78, which is mostly infill. But they took the existing mineralization, and with the 3D modeling, they projected the mineralized zone up to 250 meters away, which at the scale that we were drilling that, it makes sense, because what we've noted is that most of those intervals end up linking up within our infill. So we don't expect too many surprises with the eventual resource estimate, but we're going to have to wait until that gets fully rolled out in a few months. We can roll down through the project, taking slices, starting at the north end, where this shows the pink blobs on the cross section is roughly what that exploration target looked like. So on the drilling is those red bars is what we actually intercepted. So taking hole 65, for example, at the north end, it takes quite a bit of pegmatite outside of that previously known exploration target. So that is quite a nice result to show that we can expand things with additional drilling as well as infill. The next section to the south is one that people like to comment, looks a little like Australia. Hopefully the Aussies appreciate that. We didn't do it intentionally, hole 36 there is a nice confirmation anyways that it's not just drilling down dip. We did a hole the opposite direction just to make sure that we're understanding the geometry appropriately with 272 meters at 1.61% oxide, lithium oxide. So that's pretty nice to confirm our interpretation is correct there. The next section to the south, again, that hole 44, best hole of the project, coming up with 457 meters at 1.65 meters, is in some areas outside of that previously known exploration target zone that we have mapped on there. So you can see some of those pegmatite intervals are outside of the pink blob, and that should help increase the size of the exploration target in that area. Noting that most of the exploration target, I think about 85%, was in that main mineralized blob in the middle. So that helps with the continuity north to south. It all seems to be most of the resources in a continuous manner right in the center. And then the last one, I think there's one more. And this is where things are getting complicated on the geology front, but probably the best one to the south is hole 27 there with 179 meters at 1.66 lithium oxide. And the hole 63 over to the northwest shows a new zone that we didn't realize was there. And that's another area where we can add potential tonnages as we expand in that region too. So this is going to be a little progression through time of our long section. So this is taking a slice in a perpendicular manner to what I was showing before. So it's showing all the drilling kind of in a north-south manner with CO1, that discovery outcrop. There's a lot of drilling there because that's where we started out. And then to the south, this is at December 2024. This is about a year ago, right? So our zone, as we knew it with drilling, was only 850 meters. And we had more open ground to the south with all those outcrops toward the southwest that had not yet been drill tested. So we'll take the next slide as a progression, roughly the same scale there, showing how we have expanded to the south with additional zones. It's a little bit more spread out in that region. But as we get on to the latest long section, there's quite a bit of infill now toward the south, showing that zone is 1,500 meters north to south, and still open in either direction. And there's zones where it's open east and west as well, with some of those minor zones. So on the next one, we'll get into Simon Gaivin on the environmental social governance.
All right. Thank you, Neil. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. So my name is Simon Gaivin, and I live in the beautiful region of Abitibi-Témiscamingue, located about, let's say, 4 hours away from the project. So before I start, I'd like just to reaffirm that Cisco project is located in the Uichi-James Bay region of Quebec, approximately 150 kilometers north of the town of Matagami, but also 230 kilometers from the community of Nemaska First Nation. So the project is situated on Category 3 lands, and it lies within the traditional territory of the Cree Nation of Nemaska, specifically within the N20 trapline area. So the Cisco project area is not accessible by public road, but it is located very close to the Billy Diamond Highway. Right now, we can access it currently by air or seasonal route, I would say, especially during the winter. So we are therefore working on the planification of the future road access that would connect the project to the Billy Diamond Highway and then improve operational efficiency for the future of the project. Next slide. So what did we put in place as ESG in 2025? So several keys elements were put in place to support both current operation and future phases of the Cisco project. So in January 2025, we started an engagement and communication approach with local stakeholders, including the town of Matagami, the Iwichi James Bay Regional Government, the Cree Nation of Nemaska and Waswanipi, and the Cree Nation government as well. In addition, ongoing relationship, including regular meetings and site visits, have been maintained with the Taliban connected to the project area. These relationships have focused on transparency, information sharing, and building a consistent and constructive dialogue over time. We've also maintained active conversation with other stakeholders, including the Quebec government, of course, Société du Plan Nord, various ministries, by sharing updates regularly on project advancement and, of course, remaining open to questions, issues, and concern as they arise. In parallel, our formal ESG framework were implemented with our service providers, ensuring that environmental, social, and safety expectations are shared, understood, and applied across all of our exploration operations. I would say also we did significant preparation work for the authorization and permitting related to the future access road and as well as the future worker camp closely located to Cisco. This work is essential to ensure that future infrastructure development is carefully planned and aligned, of course, with land users and regulatory requirements. Overall, we've put efforts to make sure that our operations and relation align with industry best practice in responsible mineral exploration industry. Next slide, please. From the early stage of exploration, we've made deliberate effort to work with Cree-owned and regional businesses operating in the Iwichi James Bay region. This approach is, of course, to ensure that economic activity generated by the project contributes directly to the local and regional economies. Key partnership with companies such as Petronor, Kepa Transport, Udin Drilling, Kronos Aviation, Air Quebec play an important role in supporting local employment and the circulation of economic benefits within the region. These partnerships also contributes to the efficiency and reliability of project operation, and while it strengthens our long-time relationship with local service provider as well. We have also initiated a community engagement approach by supporting community benefit events. This includes participation in local initiatives such as the local the Nemaska Golf Tournament and the Waswanipi Fishing Derby, which provide opportunities to remain present in the communities and to contribute to local-driven initiatives. So what's ahead in 2026 for Cisco for Q2? We will start real soon in January with a key step for the project will be the formal presentation of the project to the whole community of Nemaska, followed by the launch of consultation with land users. These discussions will be an important part of building shared understanding of the project and integrating feedback as planning progresses. Of course, ongoing dialogue with communities and local partners will remain a priority through the year. In addition, baseline environmental and social studies will be initiated to support future technical work and permitting. At the same time, permitting and planification work for the access road and the new camp will continue, helping to ensure that the project is well positioned for the next stages of development. With the collective efforts of our field partners, Q2, we will continue to strengthen ESG practices, including progress toward Ecologo certification. Ecologo, it's an independent third-party standard developed in Canada. Well, it was actually developed in the university here, UQAT, based in Rouyn-Noranda, and it's to evaluate responsible mineral exploration. It looks at how exploration activities are planned and carried out with a focus on environmental protection, worker health and safety, community engagement, and good governance. So for us, meeting Ecologo requirement, of course, is a collective responsibility with our service providers. It's shared across all with all partners involved in our operation. It does require alignment through each step of our program to ensure consistent and responsible practice on the ground. So that's about it, guys, for 2026. I would say that Q2 Metal is charging forward with a developed approach, focus on environmental consideration, of course, and community partnership to support long-term project sustainability for Cisco and the impact and the community that are working with us on that project.
All right, thanks, Simon. I'll outlay what's happening for us more on the technical side of things, operational side, as we head through the start of 2026 very soon. We will be continuing with the 4 drill rigs that we've had going on the project since I think September is when we had all 4. We'll focus on infill drilling as we want to get a better understanding on just how that main mineralized zone looks along that 1.5 kilometer trend, as well as more exploration and expansion, because there's definitely a lot of outcrops that we don't have a full understanding on. There's still expansion potential on top of what we're already infill drilling. 2026, of course, as we drill, there's going to be continued analytical results. We're aiming for that resource estimate Q1 2026. We'll continue with additional metallurgical test work to follow up on the preliminary work that we've done already. We'll be doing some of those economic assessment studies in the background as well for the rest of the year, continuing with baseline studies as we sketch out the mine plan, more or less, understanding what the baseline environmental looks like. We're going to continue permitting the access road and camp that's sort of at that intersection of the project and the Billy Diamond Highway. As Simon mentioned, we're going to be continuing that community engagement and Ecologo certification. And so far on the checklist, as we've progressed through, we will get the exploration target. We've already done that. We've done the metallurgy. We've increased drilling. This summer, we only had 1 drill, and we've quickly ramped that up to 4. So we're trying to make sure that we're progressing the project as we've increased our financing this summer. So we're trying to match that level of progress as we get toward our first mineral resource estimate.
All right, thank you, Neil and Simon. And I think I'll turn it over to Chris if there's questions that everybody has.
Okay, yeah, actually the questions are filling up a little bit here. So I guess let's start with question about the recent infill drilling. How has the recent infill drilling informed your confidence in the grade range as presented in the exploration target? That's something we get a fair bit.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. I think that we can't really say too much in terms of what we're aiming. We update our model with every drill hole, and it's going to be something that we reveal, but I don't expect any major surprises. Let's just say that.
Okay. A question about the expansion potential from the existing outcrops. Neil, thoughts on the possibility of another mineralized zone? Is it likely, unlikely, or is it too hard to guess at this point?
It's too hard to guess. We did some work around what we call the CO2 outcrop, which is about 1 kilometer east of that main CO1 outcrop. The theory was that the mineralization continued right underneath and maybe a tiny window into a whole other zone. We've done a few drill holes around it, and I don't think we've quite picked up on the trend. There's a few open areas where that mineralization may open up at depth with additional drilling. But even toward the south, some of those drill holes were quite far away from the mineralized outcrops. And I think we just need to do a little bit of testing closer to those outcrops, because at depth, some of those intervals are, from vertically 300 meters away. So there's a lot of potential in between that we just haven't yet tested.
So somewhat related in terms of expansion, timeline on assays for hole 65, for example. I suppose that's probably just, we can broaden that out to assays in general, since there's 20 plus holes, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of holes right now with the lab. They're rolling in, and we're gonna, announce those as they're complete. For hole 65, that was not completed too long ago, and the labs are kind of back on track to what we've been expecting, which is within that 6 to 8 week time zone time frame, and hole 65 will be announced as it's ready.
Well, let's go into the metallurgy then a little bit too. You can see that question about the spodumene grain size, the grain size there. Benchmarking against PMET, for example, and others in the region, how does Cisco's compare? And maybe just a little bit of context for processing and grain size as far as a relationship.
Yeah, that's a good question. Coarse spodumene is, of course, what we want. There are some projects that have spodumene grains that are 1 meter long, and that's definitely nice. It's cool to look at, but it doesn't need to be that large, because you're going to crush it down to a few inches anyway. So not a big deal. We are at that level where the spodumene isn't on average 1 meter long, but it seems to be large enough so that some of that HLS test work has demonstrated that that DMS processing should work. So we're not too concerned about that. On average, probably the grain size is smaller than others like PMET, which is what was used as an example, but it doesn't need to be 1.5 meter long crystals for sure.
Just back to the road, I think maybe let's just revisit that and flesh it out a little more as far as what advantages permitting and then constructing that access trail to the project will be for the company and project.
Yeah, well, first of all, it's going to lower the cost of drilling so that we can reduce the helicopter time. That's always an advantage cost-wise, and then logistics-wise, it's going to make it easier to increase the program size if that's what we choose to do. And it's going to allow us to do a lot more, just quicker access, just mostly removing the helicopters, which is a big cost, a big pain. The road will allow us to get just, other heavy equipment in there if we wanted to do outcrop stripping to get, some of those mineralized zones fully understood, because there is a bit of vegetation around it, and we're limited to what we can do with helicopter access on that.
And a camp closer.
That's right. Yeah, the camp is going to be a lot closer as well.
That's coming to the end. So the final question is just asking again about a recap for Catalyst into 2026. So maybe let's just take a finish up here with reiterating that, and then wish everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy Holiday.
For sure. So I guess this is more Neil's domain here, because most of the catalysts are his. Neil, do you want to go through?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously we've talked a lot about the mineral resource estimate Q1 2026. And then it's going to be a lot of drilling as we go. To touch on that other comment too about confirming, the dimensions is really the game right now. So some of that will be drilling in different directions, understanding the structural geology, just making sure that those blobs are fully defined. They're never going to look as blobby as a few drill holes are interpreted. So that's going to be a challenge for us to understand the exact dimensions on this. And that's something that we're having a really good understanding on now as we're drilling, spacing that's roughly 75 meters. As we go towards more defined mineral resource estimate beyond inferred, it's just going to clear that picture up for us. So expect a lot of drilling. I'd like to do a lot of expansion. As I mentioned, there's quite a few outcrop areas that haven't had a full testing. So sort of there's still that upside on exploration that we're looking to unlock. And then also that permitting can't build is another catalyst for 2026. And we're doing a lot of those PEA related studies. So we're expecting to have a lot of that stuff ready for nearing the end of 2026.
And Simone, any final thoughts on kind of things that you're looking out for 2026?
Well, major part of the development of the project, like we said earlier today, is the future access road. So it's going to help a lot the project. Permitting is on its way. I think we should have that permit by the end of summer, maybe faster if we are lucky. But a major part for us as well is to officially start the presentation of the project with all members of the community of Nemaska, and maintaining the great relationship that we have with all the stakeholders around us that working with us as well, the Taliman, town of Matagami. I look forward for a really great conversation and discussion with our partners there.
Okay, and Alicia, anything on the corporate front? And with that, I'll leave it in your hands to take us out as well.
Perfect. Corporate wise, status quo, keep on keeping on. We've started to change the board slightly to take us to that next level with the addition of Keith. We might have a few more changes in the new year or in 2026. But it's been a busy 2025, and we've the drills have stopped for the season. We let all the crews go home so they can have a nice Christmas, and we'll get back out there middle of January and start to get back at it. So we're looking forward to a very busy 2026, same as 2025 was. And with that, I would like to wish everybody happy from the team here at Q2 and from our board of directors. Thank you for watching our webcast.